G&D Media presents an unabridged recording of This is Berlin, radio broadcasts from Nazi Germany by William L. Shirer, narrated by Grover Gardner. Preface by Inga Shirer Dean. My father was always astonished by his life, that he had come from placid small-town Iowa to Kabul, Ur, Babylon, Delhi, Paris, Vienna, Berlin, during two of the most turbulent decades in modern history, never ceased to amaze him. Nor did the quirks of fate that had brought him there. He told us stories of traveling through the mountain passes of Afghanistan, of marching beside Gandhi in India, of watching the frightening theater of the Nuremberg rallies, of the thick, dark night of a Berlin wartime blackout and the whine of falling bombs, of mountains and rivers and paintings and cafes. The stories sailed like kites above the landscape of the Midwestern childhood that always seemed so much a part of him, despite all he had seen and learned in a lifetime away. I was born in the horse and buggy age, he would frequently point out, happily reciting lists of inventions and conveniences of daily life we children took for granted. And it was true that the America of his childhood had only just passed into a new century and was still largely agrarian, gas-lit, and horse-drawn. He was born months before the birth of the hemophiliac son of the Tsar, more than a decade before revolution brought communism to Russia, and lived to see the Soviet Empire dissolve. On the mantelpiece in his house in the Berkshire Hills, where he spent the last 25 years of his life, there was a piece of the Berlin Wall a friend had brought him. My grandfather, a U.S. attorney in Chicago with a growing reputation as a trial lawyer and national political prospects, died in 1913 when my father was 9. My grandmother had little choice but to sell the Chicago house and return to a circumscribed, small-town life with her parents in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. As children, my sister and I would roll our eyes as my father started yet another story about delivering newspapers at dawn and selling eggs to help with family finances. But behind these stories was a profound sadness at the early loss of a father he revered, a loss that had banished his family from a world that seemed, in the quiet of a prairie night, exciting, promising, and distant. My father was a great believer in luck. Being in the right place at the right time, he told us often, was what made a great journalistic career. That was part of it for him. In 1925, he had gone to Europe with a college friend and, immediately smitten by Paris, tried to find a newspaper job. Though he had worked for a Cedar Rapids daily since high school, he realized his small-town background seemed pallid next to the more urbane Ivy Leaguers who were flocking to Paris in the 20s. After a summer of vigorous sightseeing, nothing had materialized from either of the Paris newspapers to which he had applied. Packed and ready to bid Paris farewell, he found a note from the Chicago Tribune under his door offering him a job. It was a job on the copy desk and paid $15 a week, even then and even in Paris hardly a living wage. He accepted immediately, and so the course of his life was altered forever, and for the next 20 years he found the right place. 9 years later, fluent now in German and French and with a working knowledge of Spanish and Italian, he had reported from Austria, Italy, France, Germany, Eastern Europe, the Balkans, Afghanistan, India, and the Middle East. He had married a Viennese photographer, and in 1933 they pooled their money to spend a sabbatical year in Spain, where he worked on a novel about India, and with my mother got to know his neighbor Andres.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?